Well, welcome to Always on the Hunt. Today we're turning the tables. I'm sitting in the interviewer chair. My name is Randy Blanchard. You may remember me from one of Leo's earlier podcasts. And the man we're going to interview today is none other than the creator of Always on the Hunt, Leo Golubitsky. Leo is also the founder of Birddog Talent. He has been in this industry a long time, probably longer than he cares to admit, but we've known each other for a long time. So, Leo's always been highlighting other people's careers, their journeys. His podcast, I know, has been highly successful. And I know I'm enjoying every single one of them. So with that being said, let me welcome Leo Golubitsky to Always on the Hunt.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks for having me. Well,
you're welcome.
I definitely appreciated when you reached out and you're like, "Hey, let's turn the tables on you." So I'm excited to have this episode for sure.
So the reason I reached out, the reason I was thinking about this a couple of weeks ago, like I mentioned, you and I have been in this business a long time, and you're doing an amazing job sharing other people's insights. I know you have great insights in our industry. Your experience is certainly diverse. So to me, it just dawned on me, these people need to hear what Leo Golubitsky has to say about our industry. So, I'm glad you agreed and you decided to let me be the interviewer and put you in the hot seat today.
Well,
so let's get started, man. Let's jump into this thing.
Well, hold on. Before we do, so two things. One, I definitely, I appreciated when you reached out to me, and I definitely think you're probably one of the best people to do this because you and I have known each other for almost 25 years now, and you've been part of my AV journey from almost the beginning all the way through to today, right? We've worked together in almost every aspect of my career, so it's great to have you do it. But Randy, before we get started and focus on me, why don't you give the listeners a quick update on you and your career since you were last on the show?
All right. Well, I appreciate that. So, I was on your show. I just joined Just Video Walls, which is the first micro LED manufacturer focused exclusively in the CEDIA channel. They brought me on board to develop a new brand for them called Lunar Walls, which you can see behind me. What Lunar Walls is a more of a turnkey solution than even Just Video Walls. It was created to help every integrator get into this space because micro LED, they say is the future. It's not the future. It's now. But you have to have access to product. You have to have access to the knowledge. So we developed a distribution plan, and I'm happy to say that distribution plan launched about 3 weeks ago. We've got plenty of distributors on board, and CEDIA is our big coming out party, brother.
Nice.
I am really excited. So thanks for letting me take a couple minutes to pitch what we're doing.
Yeah.
So
no,
stop talking. Let me interview you now.
Well, hold on. I was just going to say it's an interesting time and definitely the right product for that home theater market. Because there's not too many Runco projectors out there that you're going to sell and make margin on anymore. So if you're a CEDIA, installer, integrator, and you still want to make money on home theater, Drive-Through LED is where it's at.
Oh, yeah, no, I absolutely. Again, from the early days of me selling, both of us selling very expensive Runco projectors and even Harman projectors prior to the earthquake. This is it. I mean, this is where that market is going. And it really is about diversity, because this isn't just a TV anymore.
Right.
This is like lighting where we're really integrating into the customer's home. And so it's exciting. Check us out. Check out our websites. Come see us at CEDIA. I know Leo will. All right. Let's have some fun, Leo.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's go back. Let's go. Let's put the Wayback Machine on. So, what drew you to this business? What drew you to this AV industry?
It was a crazy backdoor way of coming in. Like I was given an assignment my junior year of college, and it was like, find an emerging technology. This was back in 1998, 97, 98. So there was no Wi-Fi yet, right? People were, one of the biggest issues was that families would have to share computers, with multiple kids and printing their homework out and stuff like that. So home networking started becoming more and more of a topic. And I was an IT major, so I started doing research on home networking and came across home automation. And I'm like, oh wow, this stuff actually exists. Like like we've seen it on the Jetsons. I didn't know it was actually real. So I got all excited, and I started doing some research in it, and I came across two companies, AMX and Crestron, and that was it. Well, there was X10 stuff out there too, but it was like AMX and Crestron were like the two giants that were doing home automation, and so I reached out to them and got some catalogs of their info and sent it over to my dad, who was an electrical engineer. And I'm like, hey, Dad, does any of this stuff make sense to you? And he's like, yeah. He's like, it all makes sense. It's all easy. And I'm like, can you do this stuff? He's like, I used to automate, my dad was an electrical engineer. So he's like, I used to automate assembly lines for GE. I think I could figure this stuff out. I'm like, all right, cool. And then, I have a brother who's one of those sales guys that can, sell iced Eskimos. And he was at the time selling computers, mail order, competing with the Dells and the Gateways and so forth like that. And I reached out to him. I'm like, hey, how much home networking are you guys selling? He's like, last couple of months, every computer is leaving with a networking card. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It was still hardwired back then, right? So, and then the last thing I did is I called my mom, and who was a realtor, and I'm like, hey, Mom, I'm like, do you know like the home builders in the Cleveland market? And she's like, yeah, every one of them. Like I'm in their open houses all the time. This and that. She goes, so I put it all together, and that's basically how we got started. I reached out, my dad was the technical engineer. My brother was a sales guy. My mom was our secret weapon, that got us into all the doors with all the home builders. And we launched S.M.I.L.E, and we had a really good run.
So that's when we met. You had you were at S.M.I.L E, and I was you were one of my customers. Good customer, tough customer, but good customer. So let's talk about S.M.I.L E. First of all, S.M.I.L E is an acronym.
Right. What does
S.M.I.L E stand for? And then tell us how it started and how it evolved.
Yeah. So the acronym stood for Systems Modulation and Integration for Lifestyle Enhancement. It's a mouthful. So I was playing with the words lifestyle enhancement, and I was coming up to like mile technology, mile ahead technology, and and my mom walks by me, she sees that I'm like kind of stressing over trying to figure out what the name of the company should be, and she goes, Leo, just smile and everything will be fine. And I just looked at her. I'm like, wait, what? Like S.M.I.L E? I'm like, and Randy, honestly, I think that was our biggest differentiator, was that we weren't trying to overcomplicate or over technical or, intimidate our clients with the tech. We were focused on the experience. And I remember one customer said, we landed a really big project, like $250,000, and he's like, you guys won the bid because of your company name. I'm like, wait, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, I thought both companies were really good, but the other company, like digital something, blah, blah, blah. It was like super technical and intimidating. And when he asked his wife to sit in, she goes, no, I have no interest. And then the next day we were coming, and he's like, hey, the S.M.I.L E guys are coming. And she's like, "Oh, S.M.I.L.E. guys. Okay, I'll sit in that one." And she sat in and she liked it. And, for him, he's like, he just wanted the home theater and the toys and whatever. And she was like, yeah, I like those guys. Let's go with them. So sometimes, it's not, that was always our strategy was focus on the customer experience and not necessarily the technology. That's secondary. You always got to focus more on how it's going to be used and how people are going to enjoy it.
So I guess you could say you made your customers smile.
Yeah, exactly. That was it.
Pretty brilliant. Let's keep talking about those early days. And so, what did you do? I mean, what was your focus initially? Was it on Crestron AMX or,
Yeah.
How did you get customers engaged?
Right. So we were totally focused on the structured wiring aspect of it. Future proofing or future readying houses, and the home automation, because that's really what kind of got me all excited. Was being able to touch a button, have lights turn on, and music turn on, and control your whole house. And about 6 months in, we did a pretty big project where we partnered with one of the retail audio store companies. They did all the surround sound systems. They did the home theater. We were just doing the wiring. Man, we spent, weeks wiring this house, weeks, doing all the rough in, the trim out, the finish, all the complicated home automation. And these dudes showed up for like 3 days, and put in the couple surround sound systems, and they were like over 50% of the project cost. And then I'm like, why are we giving this up? We could do this too. So then we started adding the audio side, and we did security as well. So we were trying to be as much of a one-stop shop as we possibly could.
Excellent. And I remember those days. I remember seeing your store. You guys had a really nice showroom, and you did a great job of explaining to customers. So, kudos to that. So,
yeah,
obviously you learned a lot. You had a lot of mentors.
Right.
So, what's your takeaway from those early days? Who helped you? What's your takeaway? What could you share with young people in our industry today?
So, I will tell you a couple of things. One of my first CDs, I went and I spent probably 3 hours in the cafeteria, just eavesdropping on as many different conversations that I possibly could. Just trying to pick up the industry, the lingo. I was a complete outsider. I was a college kid. Just, I haven't even graduated yet, right? And I'm at CEDIA and just trying to learn this industry, right? And that's really where it started, right? It's walking through CEDIA and stopping by the different booths and trying to learn the different companies and the names and the tech and whatever. So I eavesdropped, and it was weird for me because I was an IT major with a business minor. And, like back then in 98, 99, there wasn't a lot of, I don't want to say there was a lot of sophistication to our industry, right? There was a lot of hobbyists that turned this into, turned their passion into a career.
Exactly.
Right. So I didn't hear like, hey, our go-to-market strategy is X, Y, Z. And we were this, percent profit. And this is, none of those words. I overheard conversations about how one dude created an underwater subwoofer for one of his clients in their pool. And I'm like, what? Like it was just all a bunch of, techies that were making a living, from their passion, which was also, pretty cool to me. Cause like, it wasn't that corporate, cutthroat type of, industry. It was an industry really built off passion. So,
great point, by the way.
Yeah.
Built on passion.
Yeah, it was.
Great point.
It was, and we could talk about if it still is, but it definitely was. And then, man, like the biggest helpers for us were the few reps that we trusted, you being one of them, right?
Thank you.
Milo Kosic, shout out to Milo.
Love Milo.
Yeah.
Love Milo.
And then Dory, and I'm blanking on her last name, but she was also, so there was like 3 or 4 reps that we continually allowed into our doors. There was a few that we were like, no, we're not dealing with you. We're not dealing with you with your products. There was just no trust. Again, we were not product driven. We were relationship, not to be cliche, but we were relationship driven. And it started with our vendors as well. Like the only vendors we worked with were the ones that we could have a relationship with and trust. And we knew that they would take care of us the way that we want to take care of our clients. And we couldn't take care of our clients if our vendors didn't take care of us. So we were just totally focused on who's going to support us, who's going to take care of us. And then, and those were the products we sold. It didn't matter to me. I was the least techie person you would probably see out of any AV integrator owner, right? Like I remember it was like a year into business, and Dory came in and she started giving us like this presentation about. She was the Denon rep back then, so she was giving us a presentation on the different receivers, and she's like, it has this many speaker outs, it had this many line level outs, and I'm like, Dory, I'm like, what's the difference? Like, what do you mean speaker level, line level? Like, I was a year into this business and I didn't know the difference between speaker level and line level. Because it didn't matter, right? Like we weren't doing that. We were just setting up surround sound systems. We were keeping things simple. I never looked at like the wattages or the ohms, and we even trained our salespeople. Like, hey, if you ever say the word ohm, in your presentation, just pack up, leave. The sales over.
So you were selling the solution before it was fashionable to be selling the solution, while everybody else was still selling specs.
Yeah, we were selling experience, totally experience, and the fact that we were probably, I don't mean to say it this way, but it's probably as dumb as our clients were. When it comes to this tech, that we could talk their language, we could talk at their level. We didn't intimidate, we didn't overwhelm them, and it really led to our success, 100%.
Now that's for those younger guys that are going to listen to this, that is a huge lesson that we don't teach anymore. So I appreciate you talking about that and talking like that, because we're so spec driven these days, and so this brand over that brand, that I appreciate you saying that.
And I will die on this hill, right? I will fight this fight until I'm you cannot tell me that when you look at, like, let's just say AV receivers, right? And you got companies out there, like Denon, Marantz, Yamaha, whoever, who's back there. They're all producing good stuff. It all was good. Like there was a $600 receiver, $1,000 receiver, $2,000 receiver. It was all splitting hairs, right? But which company would advance replace? Which company would offer a better warranty? Which company would answer my phone calls or emails when I'm like, hey, I got an issue here, right? That's what was more important. So, like lesson 2, the integrators, like, hey, make sure that you partner with the companies that support you. But if you're a manufacturer's rep and you want sales, support your clients. Like, don't expect your product to sell itself. Like sell yourself instead of your products.
Yeah. It's not to plug my brand again, but that's exactly what we're selling. That's what this company, JVW, started out as. And, when they asked me to join them, which they asked,
right.
It was about that, right? It's sell the solution, sell your brand, sell your company, not just the product, right? So, again, kudos, because I know you guys were early innovators in that, and I hope these young guys listen to that. Let's jump up. Let's jump ahead a couple of years now, a few years. We had this wonderful thing called Hurricane Katrina.
Yep.
Decimated New Orleans. Very tragic.
Mm-hmm.
After that, you packed up, left Cleveland, and you went to New Orleans.
Yeah.
Why?
Crazy story. So, one of my ex-employees who's living in California gives me a call out of the blue and goes, hey, a large nationwide home builder, I'm not trying to drop names or anything, but like a large home builder has plans to build 10,000 houses in New Orleans. And they're struggling finding, trades. They're just struggling, and he's like, do you want to go in and bid on it? And I'm like, 10,000 houses? I'm like, yeah, of course, right? So me and my brother, we flew into New Orleans, put together a presentation about how we do things, our way of doing things and how we do it and how we could support them and this and that. And literally we walked out that day with the PO, so I packed up. It was going to be a 1-year thing for me to just go down there and kind of establish the operations. And then totally fell in love with the city, fell in love with the food, the culture, all of it, so decided to stay. My wife and my kids moved down with me, and we had a great 10-year experience in the city of New Orleans that, to this day.
Was it 10 years?
10 years. We spent 10 years.
I remember talking to you down there. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. That's a fabulous story. So obviously struggles. Obviously, going into that and going at it alone is challenging. If you can say, this is the hardest part of doing that, whether it's moving there, starting a business, being in New Orleans, what was, do you have a story of something that really stood out as a struggle? And what'd you do to get past it? How did you push past that?
Yeah. So a couple things, any startup's going to struggle. And I think that when you scale at certain points, and I think that in our industry, we have very specific points that totally make your business look totally different, right? Like when you hit that $1 million point, $2 million, $5 million point, like every time you hit a different milestone, you have to reinvent your company. And if you don't have your process down, and if you're not, understand your margins, understand your process, this is a good part for me to shout out, Jason Sayin and then also the Vital team, because what those two groups are doing is so crucial for any integrator success. We grew, right, Randy? We were in the Cleveland market. Cleveland, Ohio is not LA. It's not Miami. It's not New York. There's no, rich and famous or wealth, and we were putting up numbers that were similar to companies in those markets. We were a CE Pro Top 50 out of Cleveland, Ohio. And it was based off of, simplifying the sale, right? And understanding your clients and being able to really relate to them. And then process and understanding margin, all those things. So I think the struggles were learning those, in retrospect, right? Like hitting that $2 million point and then being like, oh shit, we're less profitable today than we were when we were half the size, right? And then doing the same thing when we hit 4 and so forth like that. And understanding that at every scale point, you really need to get your process and margins figured out and understand that. The other thing is, I think, diversifying in we were way too heavy in new construction. We kind of avoided the retrofit market. We avoided a lot of different things because it was just rock and roll, right? Like there was, this will never slow down, right? Nobody's going to turn this faucet off. It was just, business was coming, money was coming, nothing, and then we had the housing crisis, right? And when that bubble burst, that hit hard. And, I know it impacted a lot of people in our industry. So, really understanding, planning for the future, understanding your process, understanding your margins, and then diversifying, where your customer base is, where you're just not too heavy in one sector. I think those would be the lessons learned for me.
Excellent. Good story. Good information. So all things run their course.
Right.
That ran its course. You moved back to Cleveland.
Right.
And you decided, of all things, to get into recruiting.
Yeah.
How does a guy who's an AV entrepreneur, a guy who's owned his own business,
right,
go from that into recruiting?
Yeah. So when I moved back to Cleveland, and the reason why, just quick backstory. So I already sold um, S.M.I.L.E, NOLA, the New Orleans, to one of our competitors. We kind of merged, and I helped them build. They were a security company. I helped them build up their AV division. We increased sales 40% year one. It was great. Everything was rock and rolling.
Wow.
And then I get a phone call that my mom is ill, and she gets this rare brain disease, and unfortunately, she passes away 3 months later. Just super, super, super rare and super quick, and which is a blessing and a curse that at least she went quickly. So I'm like, you know what? My only regret in life is that my kids kind of grew up without their grandparents day in and day out. And my in-laws are young and my dad is still young. So we moved back so the kids can grow up with their grandparents and know their family. We were very, very, isolated in New Orleans when it came to family. So anyway, so we moved back and I reached out to a couple of friends of mine that are recruiters. And I'm like, hey, do you guys got anything for me? I'm on the market. And they're like, yeah, sure, come on in. And I swear to God, Randy, I thought they were going to talk to me about their clients. They're like, hey, we have this client, we have that client, these are different opportunities, whatever. Instead, they said, they're like, hey, ever think about becoming a recruiter? I'm like, no, why would I, right? And they kind of explained to me like how recruiting works, the opportunity there. Plus, it gave me an opportunity to stay in this industry, right? I've been in the industry my whole adult life. I love this industry. I have a passion for it. So this just gave me another opportunity to, serve the industry in a different capacity. And the way I really viewed it was like, this is actually an opportunity to help, right? Like help a lot of people advance their careers and help companies find the talent that they need to advance their company. So to me, like, again, not to sound cliche, but it's really about helping people.
Yeah, there's nothing cliche about that, and there aren't many talent companies that are focused or even understand our business. So, kudos again. That's, kind of the entrepreneurial spirit to see that there's an opportunity and it's a legitimate opportunity. So good. So if you were to say, what's the one thing that you thought you knew about the recruiting business that you didn't really know? What blew you away? What shocked you?
Oh my gosh. The biggest thing that I didn't realize was how much companies would shoot themselves in the foot when it comes to hiring. That's really the biggest thing. When I got into this industry, back in 98, 99, the number one problem was finding good help. 2025, the number one problem is finding good help. And there are so many companies that just refuse to work with recruiters because they're worried about the cost or worried about this, but yet they don't calculate the opportunity cost, right, of not having the right help. How much bad help is hurting them? How much not having that salesperson in that seat is costing them? So, and then the hiring processes, just like long drawn out interview processes, inconsistent interviewing, not knowing how to interview, like all the things that companies, when your number one asset in a company is your people, you would think that these companies would actually invest in, first of all, invest in their people, and number two, invest in finding good people, and most importantly, invest in keeping good people. So that's probably the biggest thing is like, it was shocking to me how many companies are bad at hiring and then furthermore refuse to get help.
Yeah, no, it's one of the lessons I learned, I'll share real quick, is when it comes to, I worked for a Fortune 50 company that we know, and it was surprising how they treat employees as no different than a screwdriver.
Yeah.
You're a tool to get the job done. And if you're not the right shape tool, we're going to find a different tool. And it's not unique to that one company. It seems to be the trend. So, it's good to hear that you're able to bring that passion and that focus on the industry.
Yeah.
So you worked for somebody else for a bit,
You're right.
and then you started Birddog.
Yeah.
Talk about that process. Why?
Frustration. That was the big number one reason. Like for once in my life, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to be the entrepreneur. I'm just going to go into a firm. I'll put in my time. I'll pay my dues. I'll make partner. Everything will be fine. And then you kind of see behind the curtain, and you're like, hey, and look, they're a good company. I don't want to sit there and badmouth them at all. I just felt I could do it differently, and I felt I could do it better. There were frustrations that that was just part of the recruiting game. Like, there was a couple, every year I would lose my top client. And it was because I was successful. It was because I made so many placements, and we charged them so much that the CFO had to stop in and be like, hold on, we got to cut our recruiting budget and this and that. So, when I started Birddog, of course, I created a more fair and more equitable fee structure, that I think has worked great for our clients. The other thing is, just stupid things that, and I have a whole, one of my earlier podcasts, one of my earlier episodes, I did the whole thing about why recruiting is broken. And that's what I try to do. I just try to fix every frustration that I had coming from being a recruiter. But the biggest thing was, because I was an entrepreneur and because I was a business owner myself, I always viewed from my customers, like I could relate again, right? Like I could understand their frustrations of working with recruiters as well. And I always looked at it. I looked at the fee structure. I look at the costs. I look at the candidate ownership issues. Every aspect of it. And I'm just, like, we can do better. So I think we did, and I think we are.
Yeah. How long's Birddog been around now?
How long was what?
How long has Birddog been around now?
Over 3 years now. So we're well into our third year. Yeah. It's been a fun ride.
Congratulations on that, brother.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride.
So with Birddog, you kind of heard you talk about the pain points, heard about the issues, and I think you're spot on there.
Right.
You've got a different approach. You've got this subscription model that you talked about. It's saving upwards of 70% over the traditional recruiting model.
Right.
2 questions.
Sure.
Where'd that idea come from?
Uh-huh.
And how is it different than traditional recruiting?
So the idea definitely came from our industry itself, right? Like, we are an industry that thrives on reoccurring revenue, right? Be it security, or be it services, or be it remote services, whatever. Everyone's trying to always build up reoccurring. So that was my thought. It's like, hey, how can I do recruiting and create a reoccurring model that's priced fairly, that's a win-win situation for both me and my clients. And I didn't want to lose, my top clients every year because I'm overbilling. So that's number one. What was the second point of your question? Sorry, I forgot it.
How is it different? What do other recruiters? What did your previous employer do?
Yeah, so the industry in general, I'd say, works on a contingency model where they just charge a percentage, anywhere from 20-25% up to 33%. Some of or even higher, I've heard and seen. So, when you're hiring an employee and they're $100,000 base salary, that's a $25,000 check that a lot of companies are afraid of. Again, back to my original point, if you're struggling hiring and you can't find good people, you got to pay it, and you should. Like, working with contingency recruiters is still better than not working with any recruiter at all. So I'll still plug the need to work with recruiters. But again, like I said, we have a way that's been saving our clients quite a bit of money, and it's been a very much a win-win for both sides.
Awesome. So, proud. What are you proud of? What's your proudest moment so far in Birddog?
Man, people who don't know recruiting sometimes will ask me like, hey, what do you do? I'm like, do you want like the technical quick answer, or do you want the real one? And they're like, no, give me the real one. I'm like, all right. I had a search, reached out to a candidate. He was making like, I want to say 60 grand base, no upside, no commission, and totally undervalued at his company. And so I called him, and I'm like, hey, I have another role, but like one of the things I always do with my candidates, I'm like, hey, like if it's just about money, then go ask for a raise first. Let's get you a raise, because if that satisfies it, then I don't need to put you through this whole interviewing process. So he was managing distribution and getting zero commission on that. So so he went in and he's like, hey, like, you know, and I kind of prepped him. I'm like, tell him some idiot recruiter called you and told you that everyone else is getting paid, you know, commissions on distribution. So he walks in and basically says that, exactly that. And he walks out with commission on distribution, which is now an extra 30 grand a year in 30 grand a year in commissions. So now he's up to 90. 2 or 3 months later comes by and I get a role that's a 90 base, you know, 120, 130 with bonus. I call him again. I'm like, hey, I got another opportunity. You want to do it? And he's like, yeah. And so he interviews and of course gets the role. And now he's making 120. This is all 6 months from first time talking to me, right? It doubled his salary. Right. Then he does really well. He promotes up, you know, now he's making about 150, right? And I see him at CEDIA and he walks up to me and gives me like the biggest hug. He's like, what's up, Leo? Man, I love you, man. This and that. I can't thank you enough. I'm like, dude, let's just do my job. No worries. He's like, no. He's like, it's not about the money. He's like, a couple years ago, I had to adopt my sister's 2 kids. You know, absentee father, mother was you know, drug addict and stuff like that. So he adopted his 2 nieces. He's like, we were living in New York off 60K. He's like, when I leave CEDIA, I'm taking these girls to Disney World. He's like,
nice.
He's like, first time I can afford to give these girls the lifestyle that they deserve. So, you know, long story, but that's what I feel like I'm doing. You know, that's my most proud recruiting moment. What do I pride myself in general with recruiting? Honestly, it's not the number of, and I'll tell you, this is a little backwards, but this is typical for, you know, if you know me. I'm not focused on the number of placements I make. I focus more on the retention of how long candidates I place stay. You know, and that's something I really thrive on. You know, with Birddog, first 2 years, like we had almost 100% retention. You know, things have up and down, especially thanks to the tariffs and whatever. But yeah, we had a pretty long run where all of our placements stayed. You know, which was, you know, it's not just about the quantity, but it's the quality of work you do, and that's something where I really pride myself is retention. And again, so that means that not only are we finding great talent for our clients, but the candidates are also finding great homes for themselves, where they're not quitting either.
You know, I can hear the passion in your voice, Leo.
Yeah. Thanks.
You know, I hear the emotion in your voice, and you know, again, we go back, right? Emotion is so critical in emotional intelligence. So, kudos. One more question on Birddog, then we'll move on and we'll talk about this podcast thing.
Right.
You got what's your biggest win? What's your biggest success that you want to talk about? What's the client success?
Yeah, I think, you know, that's the retention side. You know, there's one client that we've made, I want to say like 28. We're approaching 30 placements with them. And 30, yeah, over the last 3 years.
Damn.
Yeah. And they 27 out of 28 are still there. You know, that's my pride. That's where I'm like, hey, you know, I'm doing good work, you know, for my clients. I'm doing good work for my candidates, and that's the biggest thing. There's a lot of recruiters that will you know, coach their candidates into a job, you know, and it's not what I do. I really try to, sometimes like clients will be like, hey, I only got four resumes from you. I'm like, yeah, but those are the 4 right ones, right? Like that's all you need. And it's about, for me, it's always about quality over quantity, and making sure that the placement makes sense for both sides of it, and make it, again, it's all cliche, but it's win-win-win, right? Everyone's got to win for it to be good.
Fabulous. So let's move on here. Little short subject area here. You're a busy guy. We know you're a busy guy. You have to be a busy guy.
Right.
Why did you start this podcast? Why did you start On the Hunt? Always
on the hunt, right? Started the podcast because, because I wanted to really, 2 things, right? One, obviously, it's great marketing. It just is. Like the cold emails and cold calls and this and that, are just not really worth the time anymore, I don't think. So why start a podcast? Because I wanted to, have a marketing vehicle where I can, again, introduce myself, to more people in our industry. But why did we focus on, the subject matter that we did? Like, I really don't like to talk tech. I never like to talk tech. I am a techie who does not want to talk tech. There's enough good podcasts out there that will sit there and talk about technology and talk about the different techs and different standards and different this and different that, and that's cool. Good. Just I think those all serve a great value, and they all have a great place in our industry. I wanted to do one that focused on the people. And that's all I do. Every episode, I talk to people. I want to know about their career. I want to know about their journey. I want to see what their lessons learned are. I want to know like how they advanced. What did they do differently to kind of help and highlight the different successes or the different personalities that make up our great industry. Like again, Randy, like goes back to my S.M.I.L.E days where I didn't really care about the technology. I care about the people. And it's not cliche. It's my true thing. It's like I want to highlight the awesome people of our industry.
Excellent. Again, you can hear it. You can hear your sincerity, and I respect and appreciate that.
Thank you.
What shocked you? What surprised you about this? Now, you've done a few, so you got a. Damn, I wasn't expecting that moment.
Yeah, on podcasting. Yeah, there was every episode's had some great nuggets, right? Like, I make clips up, I make clips and post them up on LinkedIn, and there's always some great highlights, right? What surprises me is how consistent, the things that require success, things that are required to become successful in this industry. It comes down to, the obvious things like hard work and hustle. A lot of it is just like simple things, just getting back to your clients in a timely manner, and how much every executive relies on their support system. Every one of them has some sort of trusted advisors that they reach out to consistently. Like when I was a 19-year-old entrepreneur, right, starting S.M.I.L E, I thought I needed to know all the answers, and then furthermore, I was kind of also insecure about not knowing the answer, so I had to fake it till I make it type of thing, where everyone's like, no, it's totally okay to go ask for help. And here you have 40 and 50 and 60-year-old executives that are very successful, Hall of Fame in our industry, and they're all like, no. I have 5-6 people that I constantly call and ask, what their opinions are and what they would do and stuff like that. So getting help, not thinking, to have all the right answers. And then, had Matt Bernath with Vital, and I asked him one question, and I thought he was going to go totally a different direction, about like, hey, like, and I asked him kind of like, if there's one thing that you would recommend for an entrepreneur like today to fix in their company, what would you do? What would you tell them? And he's like, I would tell them to go get their shit together. their mental shit. Like because every entrepreneur like is mentally stressed out and has their own, trauma from childhood and all this other stuff that holds us back from growth. And he went that direction, and it blew me away because like I 100% understood it, 100% agreed with it because it hit home with me too. But that was like that one moment of my podcast. I'm like, all right, cool. That was awesome.
So if you had to pick a favorite guest besides me,
Randy Blanchard, easily.
No, bullshit. Too easy. Come on. Yeah. I've seen your podcast.
Yeah.
I've seen the diversity in guests.
Yeah.
You got one that, like, again, was that aha moment, one that just wowed you, and you feel wowed your listeners.
I think Alicia Henley jumps out, because again, every podcast guest that I've had has been industry veterans for 20 plus years. Everyone's white, everyone's male, everyone, and then having Alicia on, she brings a different, just a different presence, a different vibe, a different, viewpoint, and going, there's a lot of times we just don't see, and we can't see what they do, what they go through, and what it's like to be a woman in our industry, what it's like to be African American in our industry. So there was a lot of different. It was just a totally different viewpoint that generally, we don't get to see, hear, or talk about. But she brings it, and I love the fact that she is, authentically, out there. She puts herself out there very authentically and not afraid, which is great. Although she did share that she used to be afraid, but which I think is also another great lesson where everybody else, like, hey, if you're holding back, if you're afraid to be authentic, you're afraid to put yourself out there, you're afraid to do it. We're an industry of characters, right? So
that's a fact.
Yeah. So
I would tell you that having watched that podcast, if I would speak to your listeners right now, and your viewers, that if you haven't, go back and find it and pay attention, because I agree with Leo. It's an excellent story.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
And Randy, that's the goal. That's the goal. The goal is to kind of mix it up, right? Is to have industry legends, such as yourself, and who've experienced success in multiple different roles and can share a lot of wisdom, and then have people like Alicia, who's like, no, we got to show different aspects and different viewpoints, and give a platform, or at least I shouldn't say give a platform, share my platform, because she has her own platform, which is doing great. But share a platform and let them amplify their voice, because they're the up and comers. They're the ones that we're going to be, passing the baton to, sooner than later.
Yeah, well, fabulous. So you got this podcast. You got Birddog Talent.
Yeah.
How do they connect? How does this podcast connect you to your company or your mission?
It's the consistent, it's all about amplifying people and helping them, either helping them with their careers, helping them learn how to interview, helping them learn how to hire, and also amplifying, their platform, giving people another way of sharing, but more importantly, giving people an opportunity to hear from people who they might not have access to, or think that they, the funny part is people who they think, they don't have access to, right? And every single person that I've had on the podcast has been like, yeah, anyone can reach out to me, just, totally open, right? But people are naturally afraid, to reach out to some of these executives and so forth, and be like, no. That's the one thing that's great about our industry. It's a very giving and nurturing space, because we're not so cutthroat, right? There's a lot of industries that would never train that person's going to go take my job. Now our industry gives back.
Yeah, I agree with you, a lot about that a lot. And,
Yeah.
One of the things I always try to teach young kids in this industry is to understand who your competition is. And it's not the EV guy next door. It's the Rolex watch dealer. It's the BMW dealer. It's the landscaper. Those are your competitors. Anybody who's going to take your customers' discretionary income, right? So, it's good that you brought that up. So let's go, man. Let's keep going. I got some more questions for you, and then we're gonna have some fun.
I was gonna let me just jump in. Yeah, let me jump in real quick. But you're right. It's not. We're not competing against each other. And I never viewed any of my competitors as actual competition. Back then we were building to make the industry credible, right? Because why do I need an AV company? Why do I need a home technology expert? I got my electrician. He could pull my cable and my phone wires, right? So back then we were all in it together to build the credibility of the industry. And I think that still stays. I think, you're an LED now. I think every LED company has to work together to make LED a standard in home theaters, right? Not that it's just a one-off, small percentage of the market where all the LED guys have to be like, all right, let's all build this up. So we all, it's kind of like the Las Vegas effect, right? The more LED companies that sell home theater, the more the home theater LED market will grow and stuff like that. And that's across the board. That's every product.
A rising tide raises all boats.
Yep.
So, you already started talking about this, but you've been at this for forever. You got a great career. What lessons have stuck with you? What lessons can you give to the next generation of the AV entrepreneurs, guys who are just starting out? Teach them a little here.
Well, here's my lesson to any aspiring successful person, period. One, always play the long game. Always do what's right, and don't worry about short-term profit or that one commission check or, you got to play the long game. You could lose a deal and win the war type of thing, right? Lose a battle, but win the war. So maintaining your reputation, your integrity, your ethics at all costs is number one. And then number two is focus on your daily behaviors, right? Your daily activities. If you win every day, you make the number of calls you need to make, you set the number of appointments you need to set, you just kind of focus on the little wins on a daily basis. It'll add up to weekly wins, which adds up to monthly wins, which adds up to quarterly wins, adds up to yearly wins. So, closing a sale at the end of the day ultimately is out of your control, right? Customer's going to decide whether they go with you or not. And there's been days that I've done perfect presentations and lost. And then there's other days that I've stumbled over every other word and won, right? So as much as we think that it's us, but consistent daily behavior and activities, it's really what's going to lead to success down the long term.
That's a great lesson, especially for these young kids. Because sometimes we forget that, right?
Yeah.
We know sometimes, particularly when an entrepreneur, motivation's challenging. How does Leo stay motivated to keep hunting?
Yeah, it's funny. It's like one of my favorite quotes is like, motivation's like showering. It needs to be done daily, right? And
hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah. But man, it's easy. It's easy. When you go to work every day and you're excited about what you do and you're passionate about what you do, it's not work, right? And again, you hear, people and talk about that, like athletes or sportscasters or people with cool jobs that say, yeah, it just never feels like work, right? Dude, I get to sit and talk on the phone all day with people, right? It's fun, and the net result, helping my clients and helping candidates, and it's rewarding, but it's fun. It's a grind, but it's still fun.
Fabulous. So let's wrap this up. Let's do a little rapid fire round. All right. What do you think? Let's put you on the spot a little bit. So, favorite product you ever sold in our industry?
Easy. The TiVo. by far. When the TiVo came out, that was the greatest product ever. I remember putting that remote into clients' hands and seeing their just whole world change, right? So the TiVo by far.
Let's go the other way. What's the worst product you ever sold or didn't sell or regretted bringing in the S.M.I.L.E? Let's put someone on the spot.
Oh, gosh, Randy, what were you selling me that one year? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I will tell you, there was this one year where there was a bad batch of AV receivers, and we were putting up big numbers with this. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Every time you got to go out there and replace a receiver, besides the truck roll, it's a couple hours of disconnecting and reconnecting. It's not like it's a DVD player that was 30 seconds to swap out. This was a major issue. And we had 25 out of 30 go bad, like all within like a month. Like we just got like a bad pallet of receivers, and it was a nationwide thing, and the company owned up to it. And like, oh yeah, we'll send you a replacement. I'm like, replacement? I'm like, what about the thousands of dollars, of lost revenue where I'm sending out service plus all these pissed off customers plus this and that. Anyway, so the company's like, nope, all we're gonna do is warranty. And I'm like, okay, well, that's the last PO you'll ever see. So, so that was the worst product ever sold.
I got one for you. I don't know if you sold it. You remember the Adcom ball?
The ball?
Adcom? You mean I remember the worst product ever? It was a single remote control with a big GUI for your home theater, and it was called the Adcom ball. It was the worst product I ever sold.
Yeah.
Go Google it when we're done.
No.
All right. Let's keep going here. So, what's your most memorable AV project that you did at S.M.I.L.E?
Yeah. It was a house out on a lake, and we did 180-inch outdoor screen. This was before LED.
Wow.
Yeah, this was before LED. So it was a Stewart.
Before it would have been one of my screens.
Yeah, now it would be in a heartbeat, right? But back then we didn't have direct LED, so we did in a bedroom. We knocked out the whole wall and put in a Stewart film screen rear projection with the projector hanging in the bedroom, and in front of it to protect the screen was like one of those overhead garage doors, that motorized down, and it was weatherproof and it would protect the screen. So when he would throw a party, he would open it up, and it was awesome. It was really incredible. And he was like, I was over there one night, and we were just sitting in his gazebo, just talking about like other stuff, and he opened up the screen, and you're just like, this is incredible. So yeah, Randy, sell outdoor LED screens in residences.
We have them. Good point. All right. So, if you weren't being a recruiter, what would you do?
Oh, I would probably be doing AI, something in AI right now. Again, yeah. I just find the whole new world that we're going into with AI and all the AI software. I'd probably be doing something AI driven. I'm just totally fascinated by it. I think it's the coolest thing, and I'm kind of viewing it like it's the .com bubble all over again. Like, there was so much opportunity when the internet hit, and I feel like AI is the next opportunity, that next big window where. Yeah.
Let's go on that a little bit, just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Integrators.
Yeah.
What is the best way, easiest way, one way an integrator can harness AI in his business today? And we know there's a million different ways, but if you had one, is there one you can suggest?
Yeah, there's some project management software out there that I think is pretty incredible. I haven't played with it, but like I've seen the demos, and I think that's the biggest thing. Like, where if you could sit there and automate your project management for two reasons. One, obviously all the time saving, but number two, it's almost like guardrails. It keeps you on path. So much money and projects go bad because integrators don't follow their own process. If they don't even, most of them don't have their process documented. But for those who just following your process and being able to use a software that can automate it and fix it, and it was pretty cool. It showed like if you complete a task, it automatically sends the next task and automatically puts it on the calendars, and it automatically knows where to put on the calendar based off the time, so, and if something changes, like all of a sudden you pull a meeting, then all of a sudden your whole calendar rearranges to constantly keep your calendar maximized. And I think for companies that are running multiple crews, that could be really, really helpful to keep, the dead time and the warehouse time down to a minimum.
That's great. That's great input, great advice. Again, sometimes people need to hear that, a different perspective on things. So, all right.
Yeah.
A little bit more here.
All right.
Quickly, one word. Describe the AV industry today.
Crossroads.
Crossroads. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about that. Yeah. And I agree with you. Crossroads is an excellent word. All right.
Yeah.
Finish this sentence. Besides top talent AV, I am always on the hunt for.
Always on the hunt for a good bourbon and cigar, I guess. Like that would be that would be ideal. So that's where But look, to go back one question, the AV industry really has to, I think at this point, has to really self-reflect a little bit. I think that I worry about the innovation or the lack of innovation that's coming out of the AV industry, where it's almost coming out of Silicon Valley now instead of coming out of our space. So we used to look at Silicon Valley and be like, they don't get it. There's no way they'll ever be able to do what we do. They don't understand the homeowners, this and that. And then you see companies like Sonos and Ring and so forth like that are kind of like taking up big market share and really changing the way Logitech on the commercial side and so forth. So I think the AV industry really has to start saying, all right, how are we going to start innovating? Where's our creativity going to come? And the thing that the AV industry has that Silicon Valley doesn't have is direct contact with their clients. So much of Silicon Valley, like here we are in Zoom, like they sell user licenses. They sell, whatever, but they don't have that interaction. And I think that the AV manufacturers have to spend a little bit more time really thinking through what the customer needs are, where the opportunities, looking at AI, looking at all this stuff, and being like, all right, like how are we going to innovate again? So that's why I say crossroads.
Awesome. Again, great insight. So let's bring this to an end, even though I think you and I could go all day. So what's your final takeaway for your audience?
Focus on the people, be it your clients, your employees, your coworkers, whatever. Just always treat people right, man. Like this is what industry is really about. It's about using the technology to improve people's lives, right? Be it a client, like I said, if they're a client, or you're improving your life as a way of earning a living and taking care of your family and stuff like that. So just be good people. Focus on the people. Always focus on and hey, am I doing right by this person? And if you are, then everything else will kind of take care of itself.
Awesome. Again, another great bit of advice. All right. So, how can people find Birddog Talent? How can people find Always on the Hunt?
Right. Well, hopefully they already found it, right, if they're listening. But yeah.
That's true.
Birddogtalent.com, always on the hunts on every streaming on your favorite streaming platforms, and Spotify, Apple, a few others. I think Amazon picked us up as well. So I think we're basically everywhere. And then there's, we have a YouTube channel, but stop by birdogtalent.com and I have links everywhere there. And obviously on LinkedIn, would love to connect. And and see how I can help people.
Righty. Well, Leo, I appreciate you letting me take your seat for the last hour and change or so. And, plug for my company, www.lunarwalls.com. We are going to change the way. We are changing the way people watch TV and everything. So I'm going to turn the chair back over to you.
Yeah, Randy. Well, I really appreciate this opportunity. And I was really... it was really heartwarming when you reached out. You're like, hey, I want to take over the seat and I want to interview you because you got a lot to share. And it meant a lot to me, and especially coming from you, somebody who we've obviously spent 25 years in this space together and in almost every aspect, and shared a lot of successes and a few battles. But
amen, brother.
Right, but here we are.
I gotta say, it was more than I even anticipated, because I knew you had stories, and these stories make a difference to the people in our industry that need to hear them, that are open enough to listen to them. So kudos, brother, because I had a ball.
Right. Thank you. Awesome. Well, let's wrap up. So, listeners, if you're still with us, thank you for, I know this episode ran a little long, but we appreciate you. Please give us a like, a subscribe, share, and, until next week, good luck with all your hunts.